let's just, Jess, do you mind hitting the lights, please? Thanks. Let's just go through and review that, make sure that we're all on the same page with that. So, who gets to use this guy?
Simple people, single, under 65.
No dividends, no interest, under 100 grand, single, no kids, right? Pretty straightforward. 1040A is for, can you have like self-employment income?
That's a short form.
It's a short form. I think you can use it if you've got self-employment income, if you've got kids, if you itemize your deductions, and you don't need to go to the full 1040, right? What's the Montana form called?
MTU.
MT2, good. And then I think we've also got an MT2 easy. Just to make sure that you know, Sarah, the form and the instructions is posted on your link in Moodle so that when you're starting, it'll be coming out of your software. Don't get me wrong, you're not going to have to manually download them. The MT2 will be coming out of your software, but you're not going to know how to review those forms. You're going to have to go look at the instructions to help you review the MT2. All right. What do I file a Schedule F for?
Farms and ranches.
Farms and ranches. It's basically a P&L dedicated to farms. You know, what was your seed expense? What was your fertilizer expense? Right? So it's just a P&L, but with very direct indicators or expense line items for farms. What's a C for?
Self-employment.
Self-employment. It's a P&L, very generalized, right? I can do anything from being a doll maker to a hydrologist, and I'm going to fill out a Schedule C. For my tax practice, I fill out a Schedule C. I am a sole member LLC. What's LLC again?
Limited liability.
Yeah, limited liability company. LLC is a limited liability company. And if you're a sole member LLC, you file a Schedule C. And remind me again, when you get down to the bottom of a Schedule C, you've got net earnings. What if my net earnings are $8,000? Have I earned enough to pay income tax?
No, it's like 10,000.
There's two numbers you have to add together. I'm single and I've got no kids. Yes, exactly. Standard deduction, which is what for single?
6,300.
Boy, you guys are on. An exemption?
4,000.
Yeah. So I would have an income tax liability. For the feds, I will have an income tax liability for Montana for 8,000. I don't have an income tax liability for the feds. Do I still need to file a federal tax return?
You should.
Why? I need over $400. I've got to pay SE tax, self-employment tax, FICA plus FICA. Okay, so that was that special tax screen, over $400 of self-employment income. And I can tell you, at that level, you're going to have a Montana state income tax liability because you get a standard deduction and an exemption for Montana, but they're not this big of numbers. What's a Schedule D for? Capital gains. And can anybody give me like a snapshot of what that is?
Trade like gold and silver.
Yeah, I'm buying and selling gold and silver. I'm buying and selling stocks and bonds.
question about that with,
Sure.
with the homework? 'Cause
Sure.
Part of the homework, it said something about a loss of gold coins that they had sold or silver coins. Would we take the full amount or just,
Capital losses are limited to $3,000 per year. So if I really take a hit, I sell a piece of investment property and I lose 200 grand on it, guess how much I get to take? 3,000.
can you take 3,000 every year for
Yep.
that? Okay.
Yeah, and then you carry forward $197,000 a loss.
So you take, like if you had $6,000 in a loss, you could take 3,000 out of it for the current year and then 3,000 for the next year
Yes, sir.
until that 6,000 is
Yep.
fully.
Yep, yep, precisely.
So in the other example with the 197,000, can you carry that until it's, okay, so
And
there's no
then you
limit
lose
on
it when you die.
Okay. I guess so if somebody was filing for you the year you died, you could.
Then it's gone. You lose your loss. Capital gains, what do we know about them? They're taxed at what? Different rates. So all that work we did on Tuesday where we were learning about marginal tax brackets, and I'll just paint a quick picture. I'm not even sure that I 100%. No, zero. If you're in the, this might not be 100% accurate, but it's close. If you're in the 10 or 15% regular tax bracket and you have capital gains, you pay nothing on it. If you are in, actually, I think I've got a screen on this. Let me do this so that I've got it correct.
It says 10 to 15% is zero,
Yeah.
and 25 to 35
And, oh, okay, thank you. 20, okay.
39.6 is 20.
Okay, great, thank you very much. These numbers just changed, so I wasn't sure about that. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is, let's see, and this is 10, 15. What I'm showing you here is if your regular tax bracket is this number, 10 to 15%, then your capital gains rates are 0%. If you're in the 25, 28, 33, or 35% brackets, your capital gains are taxed at 15%. And if you're in that very highest income tax bracket, 39.6, you're paying 20% on your capital gains. Different rules for Montana. What goes on Schedule E? The smoke is really getting to me. Sorry, I'm so raspy.
So they-
Huh?
Rent.
Rent.
What are royalties?
So royalties are, for example, I publish these tax PowerPoints with the book. So for every book they sell, I get, 28 cents or something.
Oh, cool.
It's like every time someone buys a CD, the person who made the CD gets. so
It's for artists, it's for authors, it's for, and then there's also like mineral royalties or oil royalties or metal royalties. If you own a piece of property, they're taking bottled water out of the ground, you get royalties on it. Okay, timber royalties, natural resources. Also, there's a weird little not weird, but there's a section on the back of the E, and this is a little beyond our scope because I told you we're not doing partnerships or corporations, but just process this because it is important. Even though we're not going to be specifically covering it. Also on the Schedule E, if you are a shareholder in an S-Corp, or you are a partner in a partnership, at the end of the year, the accountant or CPA for the S-Corp or the partnership will prepare the corporate tax return or the partnership tax return and will issue you something called a K-1. these are both pass-through entities, meaning they don't pay tax themselves. They pass through individual elements to the partners and the shareholders. So if you're in an S corp or a partnership, you're going to get a K-1 at the end of the year from the accountant that prepares the partnership or S corp tax return. And it's going to contain your share of the individual items of loss and income. It was really not a handy thing in the first week of school. And those K-1s go on the Schedule E. Again, a little past our scope, but you do need to know it because I have a lot of clients, small clients, that are involved in a partnership or an S corp, on the side. Like a great example is I've got a gal, she's one of the interpreters here, and she also is a member of an artist gallery downtown. So she gets a K-1 as a partner in this artist gallery. That goes on her E. What's a Schedule A for? Itemized deductions, and quick review, what are those? We compare the total of our itemized deductions to the total of our standard deduction, and we use whichever is higher.
Usually you would use it if they have a mortgage.
And you almost never, I can't even think of an example where I've ever seen anybody file a Schedule A for the feds if they don't have mortgage interest. That's the big number that usually puts you there. But I told you, you still got to compile the information because oftentimes you'll get itemized deductions for Montana even though you don't get them on the feds. So if you come to me and you've got some charities, some big medical bills, you pay really high real estate taxes, I guess you wouldn't do that if you didn't own a house. But you've got some of those other items, I'll compile that and possibly you will get itemized deductions for the state even though you don't have it for the feds. And lastly, taxable interest and dividends, good. And I think we only have to file the B if you have $1,500 of interest or $1,500 of dividends. Now, I'm not saying you don't pay tax. Say that I've got, why don't you pull out your 1040? What page were we looking at again? D11 or something?
Yeah, D11.
So what I'm saying is on your 1040, line 8A, most of us have savings accounts are paying like 0.9% anymore. So you're going to get, an interest statement that says, you earned $16 on your savings account. So I'm going to put that $16 right on line 8A. I don't have to fill out a Schedule B because I haven't got to the $1,500. You still have to pay tax on it. You just don't have to go fill out a Schedule B for $16. Huh?
I did all the homework on that part,
Okay.
where I was getting confused on that.
Now, Amanda was also asking, is it 8B that's the tax exempt?
Yes.
Okay. 8B is a little confusing. You have this line that's called tax exempt interest. Why would I even have to put it on if it's tax exempt? Well, it's going to actually, say that I've got, I think the line is in off of the column where you enter the rest of the data. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but we use that number for other calculations. For example, calculating how much of your Social Security benefits are taxable. Even though you don't pay tax on that $300, that number's still a part of other calculations to do phase outs and things like that. So you still have to enter it even though you don't pay tax on it. And when we get into the chapter on interest, we'll find out that some things are not taxable to the feds, but are taxable on Montana. Or are taxable to the feds and aren't taxable on Montana. So we have to enter all of our elements of interest, even though some of them may not be taxable. Does that make sense?
So we would put on 8A up to to 1,500?
Yeah.
And then-
Well, okay, now, so then, let's say, what if my taxable interest was 16,000? I'm gonna fill out a Schedule B. It's gonna show, $16,032 of interest. That number is gonna flow right here. And that's really, thank you for that prompt, that's a really important point. All of these schedules, A, B, C, D, E, F, and a bazillion more we haven't even looked at yet, are all the schedules. You do the 1040 last. You have to do all your backup schedules because those numbers all flow in. For example, where does, like, say that I made, I got a 1099 for my royalties for I got a gal, it's really interesting, out of left field. She got a call from an attorney. Her great-grandpa lived in Oklahoma in, the early 1900s. She's a part owner in an oil well in Oklahoma. And this attorney, that's all he does is digs through old records and finds unclaimed mineral royalties and then does the research and tries to connect the heirs with the... She calls me up, she's like, I haven't heard of an oil well. What the hell do I do? I'm like, I don't know, I need to do some research. She makes like 90 grand a year now at this oil well. She gives half of it to the attorney, because he connected her with it, but so she's still at 45 grand a year. It's like, wahoo. So where would her $45,000 go from the oil well earnings on the 1040? So I fill out the E. Where's that going to show up?
17?
Yeah, line 17. Exactly. So my point is all these schedules tie in somewhere.
So in the homework, though, do we have to do the schedules if it's just wanting the numbers?
No,
Okay.
you don't have enough data
If
to
they
do them.
give you the numbers?
Yeah, you don't have enough data to do them yet. Where does your Schedule A number show up?
I'm not sure if I'm enough clear. I think it says taking your standard deduction, you fill it in on 40.
Yeah. Line 40, itemized deductions. Okay? Larger of itemized or standard. Okay. Super quick review of the tax formula. What else did I ask you to do? I asked you to do the schedules, to finish those slides that we hadn't done.
I thought you had us do.
Me too, but.
Did I say do the
What
homework?
I wrote
Yeah.
down, I wrote down, read chapter 1, homework, page 37.
I didn't get that
1 through 14, 16, 17.
Okay. Well, we're not going to go through the homework till
and case
Tuesday.
one.
Awesome.
We're not going to go through the homework till Tuesday. So I guess you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's really quickly review the tax formula. What do we start with always?
Gross income.
Yep. And basically, tax law says everything's taxable unless it's specifically excluded. So when somebody comes to me and goes, I rent out my, back 2 acres to a guy so that his horses can graze, and he pays me $100 a month, is that taxable? Yeah, unless it's specifically excluded in tax law, which it's not. Okay, what do we subtract from gross income?
The deduction. Adjusted gross.
And what's special about these guys?
Everybody gets them.
Very good. Everybody gets them. You don't need to itemize to get them. So what does this give you?
Your adjusted gross.
Yeah, good. Now we're on the back page. What do we subtract?
Standard or itemized deduction
Greater of standard or itemized.
and exemption.
Yep, very good. This looks like the tax return. This looks like the manual recap. Now what am I at?
Your taxable.
Yep, taxable income. TI. Now what do I have to go do? So times some sort of rate gives you your gross tax liability, right? Then what?
Credits or.
Yep. So you're gonna have hopefully some payments. You're gonna have hopefully maybe some credits like child tax credit or American Opportunity Credit, college, or foreign tax credit. There's a ton of credits. We have a whole chapter on that. And that's going to get you to what?
Either your refund or your.
Yeah. Great. You guys are on task. Love it.
But
All right.
then there's the other one,
One more time.
with more taxes too, right? The section
Oh,
with
yeah.
taxes.
Yeah, exactly. You might have some penalties, you might have, there's some, there's some like recapture taxes, that's like, right now, that's beyond our scope, but yeah, you might have some recapture taxes. Okay, let's go ahead and get on the software. Everybody did the manual recap?
I didn't, no, I didn't.
I tried. It was very.
I tried.
It was very sparse. Okay, let's read the case together. And let's pull out our manual recap. So I need to go find my recap. And I need to go find my tax packet. All right, let's start here. View and zoom. Just a little bit bigger. So attached, please find 18 cases that you will complete in the ProSeries tax software. We will spend some time on these returns. However, you will be required to invest substantial time on your own. And this room is open both before and after this class. When you hand these in, review them before you hand them in to make sure that the federal and state tax returns are in balance. I'll show you how to do that. That they're in the proper order, and your sequence order is found in the top right-hand side or portion of the schedule. So for example, on page D13, there's a Schedule A. And if you look up in the top right-hand corner under the year 2015, it says sequence number 07. That's the order that your backup schedules go in. They'll print out in that sequence, but you'll have papers all over your desk. So when you put them back together, that's how you sequence them.
Where is this tax software?
It is on the start button and then ProSeries.
It might be on the
It might be a short.
Oh, it's the desktop. I'm sorry. Right. It's on the desktop. And you may, why don't you go ahead and bring that up and just start filling, it's going to ask for like your prepare information.
Okay.
And if you get stuck, Amanda, maybe you can kind of help her get through that while I continue to talk and keep us moving. Go ahead.
It didn't save my profile from yesterday. So
It didn't.
No, so now I have to.
I bet when you log on.
I have to re-enter everything.
I don't think so. Go ahead and click out of there.
Well,
Go ahead and click out of there. And close.
Yep.
And no. I think you're gonna be in there.
You can go all the way from there.
Customer number?
I'm sorry, one more time.
It's asking for a customer number.
Yeah, so what did we do there? Just hit escape or next?
Yeah, it was closed out.
You don't really need one. Okay, so your sequence order is found on the top right-hand side of the federal form. And you have to make sure all your supporting schedules are in order. When you turn them in, your federal tax, so the cover sheet's your manual recap. Then you've got your federal tax return, then you've got your state tax return. If they owe money, you will get a coupon printed out. Right? Yes. It'll print out with your tax return. You're going to clip the coupon and attach it to the front of the tax return it belongs to, because that's where the check would go. Okay, a lot of my clients now will have direct transfers to the IRS, but some of them don't want their bank account out there. They still want to clip the coupon and send a check. So you will be required, you'll get a 1040V for the feds and what's it called? I think an IT for Montana is the name of the coupon. And you'll clip them out and put them on the front of the tax return.
On top of the manual recap.
No, on the front page of the tax return it belongs to. So, for example, on the 1040, here's your front page of your 1040. If your client owes money, you staple the 1040V right here And in the real world, you'd paperclip it and then they put a check there. Same with the MT2. When you first start printing these things, you're not gonna know exactly what to print because you don't know what all the forms are. So I can't really guide you until we get in there and start kind of going case by case. You do not need ever to print the estimated coupons. So this is if a client's like self-employed or has a lot of rental income or interest income,
They want a prepaid.
and they need to make quarterly payments. In the real world, of course, I print those out, and when I give the client their tax return back, I'm like, here's your estimated payments for next year. Make these. But you guys don't need to waste paper on that. So don't print these. Okay, where are we? Manual recap must be attached to the front of each return. Now, again, just to reiterate it, these are done before you even get on the tax software. Just like for today, I had you prepare the manual recap for Linda. They're probably, I mean, they might be right, but maybe they're not. But the point being is when you get the information in the software, you're going to compare it to that, aren't you? And any number that's different, you need to explain why. Did I screw up on the manual recap, or did I misinput something into the software? You do not go back and erase your manual recap and make it equal this. Rather, the tool is used like this. Oh, see, the first section says gross income, right? And the first line should say wages. And I believe that Linda had some wages, right? How much were her gross wages?
23,000.
One more time.
23,500.
23,500. Okay. Great. So I get the tax return and I'm reviewing it. And I think it's line 7 on my 1040 says gross wages, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Wages, salaries, blah, 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 right? So I go and I'm like, my tax return says $23,050. My manual recap says $23,500. I'm like, oh my gosh, these don't equal. What do I have to go back to verify them? The source document, precisely. If you've got numbers that don't equal, you've got to go to your source document and figure out, did I screw up here or there? Also, what will happen, I can guarantee it, is you'll have numbers show up on your tax return that you have no bloody idea where they came from. Like, where did this come from? That's going to happen. That's going to happen over here on the actual tax return. When that happens, you know, at first, honestly, you're going to have to go kind of try and research and see what happened. You might need to call me over. Yeah, I don't have any more guidance on that other than as we get into the software, you'll get more comfortable with where things come from. You never, ever input anything directly into your 1040. You always input into a field or a screen that pulls data, and then because things can go lots of different places. For example, let's say that Linda doesn't make 23,500, she makes 235,000. So when you put in her W-2, you're going to enter, so here's my input screen, right? My W-2 worksheet it's called. And you input all of her information, you put in her gross wages, and you put in her FIT withholding. And on 235,000, she probably had, you know, 30 grand of withholding. And for SIP, she probably paid in 8,000 bucks. So you put all that information, and what you're probably going to miss right off the get-go is that state income tax is a deduction on your Schedule A. So all of a sudden now you go to the second page of the 1040, to line 40, and your item, it's not gonna have the standard deduction. It's gonna have $8,000. Because her itemized exceed her standard, and you're like, where the hell did that $8,000 come from? She's only supposed to get 6,300. So then you can go in that field, and you can double click, and it's gonna shoot you right back to the W-2 worksheet. It's like, that's where I got this number. Okay, so maybe it would be good now to just go on to the software, because I'm trying to kind of show you how to review, but you haven't really been in the software yet.
Question.
Go ahead.
That it asked for the case one on where they, where her educator expenses go on her tax return. When I was filling out the manual recap, I wanted to put it above the gross income because she paid for the education costs. But we add all that up and get our adjusted.
Okay, so that's a really good question, and I will tell you that's one of those things that has recently changed in tax law. Up forever, probably 15 years, educators in K through 12 got up to $250 of deduction for money that they spent out of their own pocket to take into the classroom.
Was that in chapter 1? I couldn't find it anywhere.
Well, I'm just looking at the 1040 right now. That's been removed, so she doesn't get educator expenses.
She doesn't get it at all, she can't use it. at her business.
No, because she doesn't itemize.
Okay.
It used to be an above-the-line deduction, deductions for AGI. It's gone.
Yeah, now it went into adjusted 23.
Okay. All right, let me jot down these numbers so that I'm able to do this with you. And let's get into the software and let's open our first client. 1608 is her fit. 963 is her sit. Okay. Things up. Oh, you're saying this is on the desktop. On the desktop, yep. So we don't have to go through all that whole customer number thing every time, do we? Okay. Okay, see, look at Ross. Here, they're asking if you want to add a new preparer, but I'm already here.
I wasn't there.
I'm not.
Okay, you must not have saved yours, so you probably do need to re-enter.
How would I go from that, from this?
You would go under, to get there,
File and then,
would you like to save your data? I don't have anything to, oh, next. Okay, I gotcha. To do that, Ross, you're going to go ahead and you're going to go up to Tools and Options. And Firm and Preparer Info. Did anybody else not get their stuff saved from Tuesday?
I can tell her about adding a new thing that
Oh, I did add a new term.
Okay, great, and just made up numbers. Okay, so here we are. Let's go up, and obviously it's set up like, let's get rid of this guy. Let's close this thing down here in the bottom right. And when we start getting clients, this is all going to be filled in. But we don't have any clients yet. This is our first client. So let's go up and do a file, new client. And then let's make this pane on the left a little bit wider so that you can really see it. As I said, and here's your most common forms, and these should look pretty familiar. Your 1040, W-2 worksheet, schedules A, B, C, D, and E. There's your K-1s for your partners and your S-corps. So these are the most common forms. I just did file new client. Or another way that I could enter data is if I scroll down, these blue headings should look pretty familiar. Income, adjustments for AGI, deductions, credits, taxes. These are all parts of the what? Yeah, the tax formula, good. So those are two different ways to find input screens. So for right now, you always are going to load into this federal information worksheet. Let's turn on our all caps and start inputting our data on Linda, tabbing between the fields. It's automatically going to save, so you don't need to worry about like saving as you go. It's not like a Word document. If I don't give you a date of birth, just go ahead and make one up. For example, she's 27 years old, and we're doing a 2015 return, so she must have been born in 88, right? No, 91, sorry. No, God.
27.
I can't do math.
Yeah, 89.
88, because we're doing a 2015. I think now we do actually have to put in a phone, so just make a phone number up.
How old is the one underneath?
She's 27. Okay, when we get down to the healthcare entry sheet, is everybody there? I want to point something out called Quick Zoom. Whenever you see Quick Zoom, it takes you from where you're at to another form that ties into the form you're in currently. So, for example, this is our federal information worksheet, which is just getting like basic information about Linda. Every client, you've got to input the status of their health care because under the Affordable Care Act, you're penalized if you don't have health insurance. And that's going to come through on your tax return. So we've got to go tell the software about my healthcare situation. I will be honest, I have not yet updated all of my cases to reflect it. In this easy situation, we're going to assume that everybody has got health care, unless I probably will go in and muck with a couple of them before we get there, and then I'll give you the information like, oh, they did, so you can see what happens if you don't have health care. But let's just assume for sure for Chapter 1 cases, everybody's fully insured, everyone in the household's fully insured all year, okay? So let's just go in and tell them that on the healthcare entry worksheet. And basically, you're just going to say, yep, everyone on the tax return is covered by health insurance all year. And that's going to mean you've got no further issues with health insurance. Okay. So, where's my back button?
You hit quick zoom again, I think. After you.
Oh, yeah, quick zoom back to our federal. Okay. Okay, so now basically we're in part 2, federal filing status. What is Linda? She's single. She have any dependents? No. Is earned income credit an issue for somebody making $27,000 with no kids? No. Okay, here is part 5. Who's preparing this tax return? We've only got one preparer entered, which is yourself, so your initial should be in there. Yeah? Okay. Great. We're not electronically filing, although I will tell you, I just converted my practice 2 years ago to electronic filing. And, earned income, and we don't have to worry about that. Probably 90% of my clients now e-file.
Ours went back to paper
You're prepared? Huh?
because they were having so many issues with fraud.
Mm.
She put all of hers back to paper.
Really? Wow. I have only had one client that's had identification fraud, and then the IRS sends them every year a piece of paper with a PIN that I have to input.
Yeah, that's what we got this year.
Okay, we're still going through part 6. Part 7, we're not doing extensions or amending. Part 8, this is if your client wants their money directly deposited. Some clients do, some clients don't want their, you to have their bank account information. Part 9, this is if they get their, the amount that they owe the state or owe the Fed zapped from their account. We're not doing that. We're not doing 10. The only thing in 10 is none of our clients want $3 to go to the presidential election campaign fund. It doesn't actually change their refund or increase their amount due, but it's a separate pool of money in the federal budget that goes specifically for that. I don't even ask people that anymore. I just hit no. Okay. Part year non-resident state returns. We're not going to actually be doing this. It's pretty gall-darn complex. When I have a client that walks in the door and says, I moved here from Maryland in May, I immediately know that I'm going to probably have a $600 or $700 tax return on my lap, because I've got to do Maryland's tax return, I've got to do Montana's tax return, I've got to do a credit for the tax they paid to Maryland and Montana. It's a big deal, and I tell them that straight up. My bill is probably going to be around $600 or $700 bucks, and I don't know Maryland law, so I've got to go read it. It's definitely a big deal. We're not going to be doing that. And it says here, you don't need to enter any state information if you're not dealing with those issues. And we're not. This is obviously something that you do in real practice, but we're not going to worry about it here because all of our clients are going to be Montana residents for the full year.
What if you have like an older retired couple that is just traveling?
That you have to establish residency somewhere.
Okay. And it doesn't matter if they're gone like 9 months. Okay, as long as they
It sure doesn't. Okay, again, this is an important piece of managing a tax practice, your client letters. But we're not going to spend any time on it because really the focus of this class is to learn how to use the software and get tax returns out. But is this a pretty important piece of managing your practice? Sure, this is your communication with your clients. I would say half my clients I never see. I send them a letter and an envelope, and they send me their data, or they scan their data and give it to me digitally, and I do their tax return, and I submit it back to them. I never see them. I don't even know what some of my clients look like. Okay? My dream is someday to be on, in the Virgin Islands or something on my boat, which I don't have, but you know what I'm saying? So this is your communication vehicle, particularly with your distance clients. Okay, where are we? Okay, so at the end of this form, now you've got to start saying, well, I got to start inputting data. What source documents do I need to input for Linda? Really, all she's got is a W-2. Where are you guys going to find the W-2 input form? There's a lot of places you can go. We can go back up here. We can go under income and see wages. We can go all the way back up here and see our common forms. So I don't care how you get there. I'm going to go, go through here. And you're going to get to a screen that says, tell me the name of the W-2 worksheet.
Did you just do the W-2 worksheet?
I did. I went under here, under wages, and picked it up, but you could also pick it up here.
Okay.
Or if you don't know the name of the input form, you could go to the 1040 and just go to the little field where you want the wages to show up. We'll try that next. Okay, did everybody find a way to get into the W-2? And create, and here I am. This is an input form. Everything that you put into the software has to go into it through an input form. So, I don't think I told you the EIN of the school. So make one up, and that starts with an 81 prefix.
What if you get a message saying the employer identification number is not valid?
That means that they're cross-checking. I just put in the number I did. It seemed to work.
That's the one I put in.
Hmm.
Oh.
Can we just break up the other?
Yep. Okay, so that's another good point. You know, I don't write every single piece of data. I probably should. Okay, so this is really important. Is this Linda's spouse's W-2? No, but the next case, you've got a married couple and they each have a W-2. You have to be very vigilant about this because it doesn't matter a whit for Linda because she's single. But on Montana, if you both have W-2s, you're going to want to married file them separately on Montana. It's not an issue here, but you know, would be. So, and then hit that automatically calculates. So that's kind of sweet. Once we put in the data, it's going to calculate our OASDI and HI based on the percentages, so you don't need to input that. And also, and this is just like housekeeping stuff, but if you know it's like a college kid who's got a summer job and they're not going to be back on at Pause Up next summer, you hit the do not transfer to next year so that you don't have a bunch of old W-2s carrying over. But this is her job, so she's probably going to, you want this data, you don't want to have to re-input that next year. Okay, so let's just go ahead and fill out the wages. And you see, once you hit that tab, it fills everything else in, doesn't it? The OASDI and the HI. She's probably got a retirement plan because she's with a school system. That doesn't matter at all for her, but it matters if you've got somebody that's in a retirement plan and also is trying to contribute to his or her 401k or simple. There's some maximum amounts that may be impacted there. Doesn't matter for her though. And the only other thing you have to fill in on her is down in Montana, you've got to put the amount of her state income tax.
You don't need this employer stated.
If you've got one on the W-2, you'd put it in. Okay. Is there anything else going on with Linda that we need to input?
Where'd you get the 21?
Yeah, it's 963.
Oh, where did I get that? Oh, it's the next guy.
Aaron, case 2.
Yeah, thanks. Now, just for giggles, let's go up and start the review process. If you think you've got everything in, you're ready to start reviewing. The first thing you want to do is go up and hit the bright yellow check errors button. So you should probably write that down. First thing you do is check errors. And you've got to clear all your errors. Nobody should have any errors on this one because it's so simple. Okay. Okay. What is your error say?
1040 EC is one.
New bid employers too.
Oh, yeah, that, okay, don't worry about that.
Can we just close it?
Yeah, okay, so, sorry. This is saying that,
Late.
yeah, that's what it would be telling me as a preparer is this form is not finalized, you can't file it yet. You certainly can't e-file it, you probably can't even hard copy file it. So, the errors that you need to clear are anything that's wrong on the tax return.
Let's just close it then.
Yeah, let me see if I get that too. Errors. Okay. So realistically, what you would do here, what I would do here is I would go up to update, and we're not going to do that now, but you've got, when you buy the software, you have a customer number, and then I would go download any new product. So hopefully they've got that form supported now, and I would go in and download the package that's got the new, and that would clear that error then.
I clicked on go to and it sent me to
Yeah, like
a form not final.
Yeah, don't do that. Okay, so step number 2 after you've cleared your errors is you want to go now and you want to compare your 1040 to your recap. Now, oops. Here's my recap. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And it should look pretty much like this. How much is her standard or itemized? 10.3, and what does that put me to? 12.2?
why does she get an exemption?
Everybody gets an exemption for themselves and for each of their dependents.
So you're disregarding the fact that she spent money, there's a $250.
That deduction has gone away. There's nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay, so that no longer, so they still have it on.
They still have it on here. Okay, so 23.5 minus 10.3 is 12.2. Yeah? What did y'all get for the tax? For the tax on the TI? Or is it 13.2?
It's 13.2 for taxable income.
Yeah. And what did you get for the tax? Well, let's go look it up together. Let's go to section A. Or appendix A, I guess. 13.2. Let's see, 13.2, and she's single. Oh, I'm in the earned income table. Yeah, make sure, because the EIC tables look just like the tax tables, don't they? 13.2, so it looks like her liability's 15.23. And you don't know what these credits are. I will tell you, you're going to come up very early on with not child care credits, child credits right here. And that line is $1,000 per kid under 17. But it's got to phase out when the AGI gets, let me see what the AGI phase out is. Child tax credit, pages 62 to 67. Just because this is one that's going to come up pretty quickly. Once your AGI gets to 110, if you're married filing jointly, that number starts to phase out.
So you just don't put it on there.
You can put a number in there like $1,000 per kid, but it's not going to be it's not going to be 100% correct. But she doesn't have any kids, so my credits are 0. My tax is 15.23. She doesn't have any other special taxes. So her total tax is 15.23. How much did she have withheld? So these are the kinds of tax returns you like where it's very close. She's going to get a small refund. 76 plus 8 of $84, right? Are you going to apply that forward to next year? Who do you apply it forward to? If somebody's getting a refund, in what situation would you apply it forward?
If you know they're gonna owe next year. Or they think
Really,
they're
the
gonna owe.
only people I ever apply forward is folks that have quarterly payments.
Is it 85?
Sure.
Looking at that.
I think it is.
It is.
Okay, now, and only now, can I go and check my manual recap against my tax return? In reality, that manual recap would have been done when?
Beforehand.
Before you ever got on the software. Okay, great. So now let's go, pull up our 1040, see what it looks like. You absolutely need to check the social security number and the spelling in the information section. I will ding you hard if you've got typos. If you've got a wrong social security number, you're just gonna get your tax return kicked back and you're gonna lose a client because you can't even get the social security number in right. How do I know that? I've done it. Okay. So review your work. Now let's go down and look at the numbers. Okay, I'm checking total income. Yep, 23.5, that's what my recap says. I'm checking AGI, 23.5, yep, that's what the recap says. I'm checking my TI of 13.2, yep, that's what the recap says. And if I were you, I would actually be doing this as I reviewed. Well, I do want you to do this. Let's see. That shows me that you went and verified that number against your tax return.
So, I have a question.
Okay.
I don't know what page this is. It's, line 39, check if you were born before January 2nd. I didn't check that or anything, but it says, where it says blind, it has a check, and my numbers are off.
Okay, so you need to get that off.
I could not check it like that, so I don't know the answer.
Does it like your
Right, okay, great point already, great teaching opportunity. So Amanda's like, I don't know where this came from. You can't really change anything on your 1040. You've got to go back to where? Your inputs. Wherever you input the data, you must have inadvertently clicked on something in your, and I will just tell you flat out, this is going to cause you great consternation. You'll click something, you'll have no idea what you clicked, and it'll throw everything kittywampus. The only thing I can tell you, because literally there's probably 20,000 input forms, obviously we can't go through all of them together. The only guidance I can give you is you just got to go back and kind of look field by field by field in your input form and say like, oh my goodness, what have I clicked? And sometimes you'll find it and sometimes you won't. You'll just have to call me over. And then I'll do what you did because believe me, I don't know 20,000 input forms either. So once you've done this, you guys, you are pretty much ready to roll. And say, I think that my my Fed is correct. Once you have verified that your federal income tax return is correct, you go up to your bar, and now we're going to click on state, ST, that big red ST. Oh, I hope you guys have Montana installed.
It says if you want to complete this return with the state, you need to install at least one.
Oh, shit. So they didn't install Montana. Awesome. Okay. Well, so the teaching opportunity today is only for federal. I will have to get with iTech and get Montana installed. I'm going to go ahead and do this anyways, just because I want to make this so that you've got the review mechanisms in front of you. But once you've compared your 1040 to your recap, and you believe your 1040 is finalized, and note there is no purpose whatsoever of erasing and rewriting your manual recap. That's just a moot point. It was used as a review mechanism. It served that purpose. I don't want you going and erasing that. That's just a waste of time. Rather, you can just, instead of having check marks by things if the numbers are wrong, cross it out in a pen and write the number it should be. Right? When I was first learning to do taxes, I even had my partner that all my tax returns went to would make me write next to the number why it was different from the tax return. I missed such and such. After that first tax season, I'm like, I'm never going to get hired back. Every single tax return came down red pen, marked up, was super angry. And it was like, at the end of close to April 15th, the partners called me upstairs, and like, I walk in, I sit down, I'm like, I'm probably not coming back next year, huh? They go, oh no, you did great. And I'm like, I did great? Every single tax return came back red pen. And they're like, oh, we wouldn't have taken that time if we didn't think that we had a lot to work with. So that's how we develop tax preparers. And so you will get very few tax returns correct. I mean, I will just tell you that flat out. With something like this, with a W-2, I hope it's correct. But when you start really, when we start diving into things, your manual recaps are going to be all messed up. You're going to have writing all over them. And that's cool. That's good. That's where you want to be. Okay. Then, once you feel like, okay, my Montana's correct, then you're going to go up and click on that red ST button, and you're going to go to state, and you're going to choose Montana. And it's going to say something like, do you want to transfer all the data? Yes, please. And really, the only thing that that you need to be super cognizant of right now on Montana is you'll come into something called a state information worksheet, just like the federal one, but for the state. And the big thing here is if your clients are married, almost always you're going to want to check which filing status. Yeah,
That's only if they're both working, right?
yes, ma'am. Now I'm going to put something else up here that we'll probably need to talk about a number of times, but I just want to introduce the concept. You are going to get your clients the largest refund or the lowest amount due by trying to equalize their taxable income. What do I mean by that?
Sure the state and federal are both the same.
You've got, and I don't have a Montana form in front of me. Oh, you do, great.
So in this packet, you guys get Mike's.
No, it's not in there, huh?
It's for a married filing separately.
So any couple that's married is almost 99.9% of the time going to marry filing joint for feds. And the same thing, if they're both, thank you, if they're both working, you are almost always going to want to marry filing separately on Montana.
Just on Montana.
Just on Montana.
Okay.
And line 45. For example, I always make the guy the taxpayer and I make the gal the spouse. It doesn't matter who makes more money. It just always keeps it straight. That's just universal. So let's say I've got my taxpayer $60,000 W-2. I've got my spouse with a $30,000 W-2. There's 4 kids and standard deduction. How am I going to equalize their taxable income as much as possible?
One's gonna get, well, you're gonna put the children in vacation.
Right, so here I've got, so now I'm on my tax return, right? We're married filing separately, and you see the columns right by each other. And I've got my AGI. I can't play with that. I can't give income away, can I? So the AGI for the taxpayer is 60, and the AGI for the spouse is 30. Okay, how am I going to equalize TI between two of them? There's only 2 things between AGI and TI. The only thing between here is deductions and exemptions. And if they've got standard deduction, there's nothing to play with. If they were itemized, who would I give all the itemized to? Him. Yeah, him. But I don't have anything to muck around with their standard. The only thing I can play with are the 4 kids. She can't give away her exemption, but he's going to take 5 exemptions. Himself plus the 4 kids. Right? You're not going to get it equal. It's not. It doesn't mean, that you're ever this number is never going to be the same. But you're doing as much as you can to not ding the lower income person and push all the write-offs to the higher income person. Okay. This is the difference between somebody that plugs numbers into a tax return and somebody that adds value to their client. Because this takes time, and you got to know what you're doing. So I will watch for that. And then lastly, okay, so then you do your state tax return. And then you review your state. really basically, on your Montana, you start Montana by federal AGI and then adjust it. And make sure that this equals your AGI on your 1040. Okay, let's go ahead and start the manual recap. And that's what we're doing the rest of class today, is tax returns number 2 and 3. So let's do the manual recap for 2 and start getting it in the computer. And then I'll tell you what to do for Tuesday, after I go see if I can get the state installed. Okay?
Do you want us to print another one?
No, because we don't have the state. Go ahead.